Well, hey guys, so I've already done the work on this guitar here, but I kind of want to film this as a little intro to the video. As I was editing it and putting it together, I realized that the video went a different direction than I thought, so the biggest thing I'm going to kind of show you is how to clean your guitar, get it to a nice, clean, pristine condition, which I've shown many times before, and then I go through and change this nut here on the guitar. Because the issue is the nut. Yes, that's right. I thought this guitar was fine, and there's just a little bit of string buzz, and I thought I could fix it with the bridge by adjusting this, but that did not fix it. It's because the string was too deep in the old nut. So I bought a new nut for it, I replaced it, I show that in this video, and then I also show myself leveling and shining up these frets. So yeah, sit back, enjoy, watch, learn, and I hope you have a good time. Welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to clean your old guitar off, fix her up, get her running like new, or at least looking like new, with some of these simple tricks. We're going to do things in this video like cleaning the guitar with these products I have here. Some Dunlop products, some Music Nomad fretboard oil products, and then also fix up your guitar with a screwdriver, rubber band, and one of these little muty string thingies. So no, I'm just kidding, it's like a dampener pad, whatever. Give it a real name, sure. But anyway, the fun will begin. So I want to start with checking this guitar's intonation and action, and the best way to do that is with old strings that have been on it before. Some people say, you know, make sure to use, like, if you're an Ernie Ball person, use Ernie Ball strings, or Diodario, or whatever you say that name. Use their strings and then let them wear in and then intonate the guitar, but it makes such a small difference that if you really want to, you totally can. It just is a longer process. It's a few days process to let those strings really wear in, get normalized, and then you can intonate after that. But for me, these strings are nice and used. They're doing good. So before I clean the guitar off, then I want to go ahead and intonate the guitar, get the action set up the way I want it, and then we'll dive into fixing that guitar up. So I'll see ya when I get this intonation going. I got the guitar bolstered up. You can use a rubber band. I've seen people do that before. But basically the way I'm using these right here is, and I guess you could just use like a sock, honestly. Like, you just need something that would literally slide in here, and then if you did the sock method or some other kind of clothing, you could do that and then pull it up underneath the strings, similar to how I've done here. And then have another one here. You just want to mute, at least with this guitar, this is how I'm muting it. Other guitars are set up differently, so I know it'll be different. But you just want to mute excess string noise potential when trying to get this up to snuff. So I will first and foremost plug her in, because that's important. And I have it in a digital tuner. So make sure to use a digital tuner. You don't want to use a headstock tuner, because those won't give you the best results. So I have it plugged in, good to go. Make sure that you've covered all your things. If you're using like a Stratocaster, make sure, like, on the springs that would be on the back right here, make sure to mute those somehow, like maybe jamming a sock in there as well, or some piece of clothing. But this should do for me. So first things first is I want to set the action on this guitar for how I want it before I intonate. So make sure, if you're going to change the action on your guitar, do that before you start intonating your guitar. So the way that you set the action on this is similar to Les Paul. You'll just adjust these two posts, and that will just adjust the strings and hole up and down, depending on how you want it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this now. I don't really have a big method for it. I showed how to do it in a previous video, how to do that with the Stratocaster, or something that has individual ones that you go through and set but this one does not. This has more of a Les Paul style one. So I'm just gonna kind of go through, get out buzzing in my frets. I think I checked them all to make sure that they were level, and so I'm not getting like fret buzz from them being unlevel. I think I'm just getting fret buzz from this being too low. So I'm gonna check that, and I'll be back. Important thing to note as well is when you're doing the action changing, make sure to keep your strings in tune as you're doing it. Otherwise, you'll either snap a string if it gets too tight, or if it's really loose, then you don't actually get the real action that your guitar is going to give you at the tuning that you want. I'm going to check this thing to make sure it's leveled. I know, it's supposed to be simple tools, but I bought this guitar, or I got it in a trade, and I haven't gotten to do this yet, so I want to make sure that it is good. Okay. Alright, so I've checked the frets. There are some taller ones, but it's not a substantial amount. It is some, but this is like not a super expensive guitar, so it's kind of expected. It's also older, it's not brand new. So you can kind of hear that, hopefully. And it's not in tune yet. I didn't tune it back up. But it is interesting that I'm getting that. So there's a few things. I'm going to also check the neck on this. I know I just made a video about checking the neck, so I'm going to actually check it with a ruler this time, or a straight edge. And then I'm going to check. I think I figured out what the issue is. I think the strings are too low overall, and that's due to this nut right here. I think the nut is carved down too much. It may be kind of hard to see, but yeah, this is a pretty low nut, and I saw that when I was trading, but I did this check where you can push down your finger here and then tap down, pretty much depress the string to the first fret. And it's hard to pick up on camera, but there is some amount of give. It's a tiny amount, but I think that this is too low and it's causing buzzing throughout. So yeah, I might have to replace this nut, which kind of sucks. I didn't really want to do that with this guitar. What I'm really going to do, and I made this mistake with the Stratocaster, is I bought bone blanks to carve my own nut, but actually, and I did this with my other Jackson, is you can actually just buy nuts that are pre-made, and to the certain guitar that you have, they're usually around 10 bucks, and so I'll just probably do that and pop this old one off and then put a new one on. One thing to note, to check the action on your guitar, is you can push down on this 3rd fret and then touch that there, and you should already see some light, but if you don't see much like this, I can barely see light, and it's touching. So all these are fine actually, but this one's too low, unfortunately. There's a few different ways to get this nut out. And the riskiest way, and probably the way I'll do it, is with these. You can use pliers, but these are nice because they get in there and they grab it. But I'm also going to pull this out. I'm going to unscrew that so I have a little more wiggle room here. And then you can also go under and pry under it with a really thin, like, file, or chisel, I mean. But I don't want to do that. There it is. Wow, super duper easy. So here you can see the nuts, the two nuts. It does look interesting to me. It doesn't look as pop swappable as I thought. I'm still gonna try it because it looks like the action's the same, potentially. Just higher on this one because it's new. But it doesn't. This one looks like it's like going like this, and then this one looks like it's got a curve to it. So cool experiment. See if that dude online was lying or not. So far, it is an amazing fit on the sides, at least. I had to file down the sides because this had like tags from how they manufactured it. So far, it's an amazing fit. So I'm gonna keep it that way. There's a little bit of wobble, but I think it's just because I need to go through and flatten out this right here. So I'm gonna clean that out, and then we'll see what we get. I'm also gonna check the frets to see if they're level. Since I got the nut off, I might go through and level these frets. So this is also going to be a fret job. Sweet. And it's good to use a different color other than black, because, I mean, you can use black, but it's easier to tell with a different color Sharpie. Because black kind of blends in when you're doing this kind of stuff. And I have 400 grit on this little sanding block here, and then 600 grit on this side, and 1000 and 1200. So we'll start with this and see where we go. Okay. Now I'll hit it real quick with the 600. Now since that's done, we'll test fit the nut again. Fits even better. All right, I'm gonna go grab a clamp. If I learned anything from last time, was don't use much. Just use enough to hold it in place. Okay, so the nut fits well. I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning up this board here, and yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna use some steel wool here to clean these, the fretboard, just because it's got some scratches in it, and I want to see if I can get them out with this. This is 4/0 steel wool, so I'm gonna try that out. A lot of people frown against this using steel wool because it gets everywhere in your shop, but I just make sure I clear underneath it, and then I have a magnet to do some cleanup. So yeah, let's get to cleaning. And I'm being careful to go with the grain of the wood. See, when using a magnet is great because you get a lot of the steel wool off. Alright, so I'm going to use this rag again, and this time I'm going to spray. This is number 1 that I'm spraying on it. Number 2. Okay, and now the lemon oil. And for lemon oil, I always say this, is put it on and let it kind of soak into the fretboard before you take it off. Because what you're doing is you're trying to rejuvenate that wood, put moisture, not moisture, but oil back into it, and keep it from drying out so much to where it cracks, because you don't want it to crack. So now I let it set for a second and look over it. I see for any drier spots, and I kind of fill those in. Interesting. Okay, so that is looking so good now. Very deep, very dark, and in person it's even more like rich and just pulling out the colors of the wood and the depth of it as well. So one thing I'll say about polish and cleaner is make sure that you are using a separate rag. Don't use the same rag you've been using, because that could have potential dust or crumbs in it that could scratch up the guitar as you're trying to do the opposite and clean it and remove that. Okay, now on to the waxing of this guitar. I'm using the Cream of Carnauba wax. And just make sure whenever you're doing this, have a separate cloth for each one. You don't want to use the same cloth for every product.